This is the WorkSmart Hypnosis Podcast, session number 104. Nicole Wackernagel on Keys to Hypnosis.
Welcome to the WorkSmart Hypnosis Podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
Welcome back. It's Jason Linett here with a conversation with someone I've actually been meaning to have on this program now for quite some time. You know those moments where it turns out there's someone you know of and you all have the exact same circle of friends and you just haven't connected with that person? Well, that's basically the story behind the podcast session this week. Nicole Wackernagel, right out of Switzerland, is someone that I've known through folks like Cheryl and Larry Ellman, through Sean Michael Andrews, through the whole Omni Hypnosis School. And she's someone that we've connected at times at various hypnosis conventions. And to see some of the work that she's doing, whether it's working with clients, working with kids, working in medical environments, and a lot of the training now as well, you're going to hear a really, really cool conversation here as we're going to cover everything in terms of what's the motivation to start training, what types of issues and what types of strategies, what techniques, when, where, and why we would use working with kids. And just a really thorough conversation that I know you're going to enjoy. So with that in mind, let's cross the international time zones here, as our scheduling was a little fun on this one. But let's jump right in. This is session number 104. Nicole Wackernagel on Keys to Hypnosis.
The first place was that I was always interested as a child in hypnosis. I had a grandmother who did that somehow. And but my mother said it's something really dangerous and I should get away. I shouldn't use that. So I got like 30 years old. And then I was afraid of a dental surgery I should have. I was really afraid of that. And I was asking, how can I do that in a way that I was not like really nervous or afraid or anything like that? So I came on hypnosis, and it was like a key situation for me because I was so fascinated. That was so awesome to experience that. And I was just figuring out that all I had in mind was not the right picture I had from hypnosis. It was totally different. And that was like a key situation for me.
I love that. I love that. Let me ask you this, though, from that experience where you were the client and then having that experience, is there any takeaway from that would become a part of how you work with your clients nowadays?
Absolutely. My background comes from the hospital. That's also a thing. And I was so fascinated. I asked the dentist, give me some books about that. I want to know more. And I felt like it's a key really, not only for my life, but also for the life for other people. And I was really getting excited what I experienced there. So I was really searching, how can I learn hypnosis? And the first encounter was that somebody told me, I'm not allowed to learn hypnosis. It's only for doctors and dentists. That was my first thing. And I wasn't happy with that. So I was really searching for school, how to learn good hypnosis, good hypnotherapy. And that was the first step, actually.
Yeah, so beginning in kind of a self-taught, reading whatever you could find in books, and then going for something more
Exactly.
formal. Yeah. So
exactly.
Then what were those connections that you made in order to bridge that gap?
Pardon me?
What were those connections that you made in order to learn it?
So which school you mean? Or?
Yes.
Okay. I went to different schools. I was on different weekends and just take a look on different schools. And I found then the Omni Hypnosis Center in Zurich.
Yes.
And I was really excited. I met Patrick Meyerberger there, not in Zurich, but in a city nearby. And I was asking him, is that something that I can work with? Is that something that is really good? And he was really also so excited, also a dentist, by the way. So, and what I saw there in the dental office, I was so passionate. I thought I have to learn that. It's a key. Again, it was, for me, it was really I felt it's just the key for my life. It's my passion. So I went to Zurich. I learned the hypnotherapy with Hans de Wip. And that was my first step. And then over the years, I was always like, I went on conventions. I went to different courses to learn more about, because I felt I don't have enough. I want to learn as much as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that nowadays, as you're doing the work, is there a specific category that you're drawn to more than anything else? Is there a certain thing that you like working with more than anything else?
Yeah, it's medical hypnosis. It's a passion because of my medical background, and family, kids. That's the thing. Because I'm a mother of 3 girls, I have a family by my own, and so family, kids, and medical hypnosis. Because of my medical background, that's my passion.
So working with kids, let's chat about that for a little bit. What's kind of the experience as the phone call comes in, as the interaction is there, and now they're in your space? How does that typically play out with you?
Typically, the mother is coming in, and first I talk to the mother. The kid is waiting downstairs and play a little bit with what we have in the dental office. And then I talk to the mother, and I want just to know what's the issue, what's the point, what's the goal of the session, her side, and then we change. Then I take the kid upstairs, and then I talk with a child about what's the goal, what she or he wants to change, and then I work with her or him.
Outstanding. So then what types of issues are you typically seeing kids for?
Oh, mostly fear of school.
Mm-hmm.
That's fear in school, mobbing. It's often different fears, actually. That's mostly the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there a specific route, whether it's techniques or approach, that often that would go for you?
No, actually not.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I
love that.
Sometimes I just play with them. Sometimes I do some regression work, but not always. I mean, with young kids, is sometimes just I do a story like something that comes out from the speech I have with a kid, or sometimes I do just regression, or ordinary regression.
Mm-hmm.
It depends a little bit of the age of the kid.
Yeah. Well, let's chat about that for a bit, because it's a category. I'm sure you're aware of how there are some people who would have strongly held opinions either for regression or against regression. I'm someone like you that I'm going to use it when I feel it's the appropriate tool. Though,
exactly.
How different is that regression for you with a kid rather than with an adult?
It depends on the age. I would say with a teenager, it's easier to do a formal regression, but even there, it's not always really necessary. And with a little kid, I mean, if it's something that a kid is like only 6 or 7, 8 years old, it's not necessary. So I do just a story. It depends from the situation, actually.
Yeah.
How do you think about that? I mean, do you work also with kids?
I do. And many people are often surprised to hear that I also will often make use of regression with kids, though I'd share that if it's with the adult, and let's say, and my whole thing in terms of regression is to remember that regression is a category, that it's not just this find the cause, informed child, that whole style of work. Though it's where and honestly, I think the greatest strength of the process comes down to that moment where you're in that informed child work with the client. And my paraphrase is that suddenly you now have a client who is doing direct suggestion hypnosis on themselves. And, and for me, that is the point of that process. Yes, the catch and release and the rebuilding of the old perception is important. Yet the fact is, I say this to my classes, it doesn't matter how clever you think I am. It doesn't matter how clever I think you are. Whatever your client is giving themselves in that moment is going to be better than anything any of us could come up with.
Exactly.
So, but it's where with a kid, it's where I'm probably less focused on getting down to the ISE and more focused on spending more time. And it often just takes this route of more of a self-coaching process at that point.
Yeah.
But navigating to that place where now they can do that for themselves.
And the kid has always the solution with him inside. That's always the solution. And I mean, every kid has the same, how you say it in English, just to be loved, just to be, there's always this almost the same. So working with the inner child or working in general, I feel with children, it's so easy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, I'd say this to their parents sometimes, they have a lot less stuff we have to deal with. What's the phrase? There's a lot less baggage to have to go through, it turns out. What's the environment over there? Because it kind of is a split over here where a lot of people would work with the kid, parents in the room. I work classically with the parents out of the room. What's that format for you?
I work always different. That means that I have the child in the room and the parents go out for a coffee or anything like that. Because I did that several times when the kid was crying and sad, insisting that the mother has to be there, and it didn't work really out. It was a fight between the child tried to fight the mother against me and me against the mother. So we couldn't concentrate and really work together. That was not possible.
Yeah. I've actually only had the experience recently where it's with a 12-year-old that the dad insisted, well, if we're doing this, I need to be in the room. And I used what's classically Roy Hunter's line around, well, you're my employer. And my phrasing would sometimes be, we can do that, though it's often a reason why the process can still be effective. It just takes a little bit longer. And additional sessions are available at this rate. And maybe it's the number that's making them go, well, okay, maybe I'll wait in the lobby. Though it's a moment where the 12-year-old looks at me and he says, I just feel like all the time nobody likes me. And the dad in that moment goes, oh, that's not true. We all like you. And suddenly he's realizing, oh, wait, I'm not validating something that he's actually expecting as a real issue. And dad had the whole conversation himself to go, at first, I'll be in the lobby. Then again, I think my first time doing parts therapy with a teenager, and the kid labels the conflicting part as mom. And my first thought is, I'm so happy she's in the other room.
I mean, I had recently a really interesting session with a teenager, 17 years old. And the thing was, the mother had the problem with the teenager and the teenager had the problem with the mother. And I wasn't sure what was the issue we've got to work on. That was really difficult. So I brought them together in the room, and I just tried to understand both. And the thing was, the end was that the teenager looked at me and said, you get on my nerves. I said, oh, well, you don't impress me much. she was, you should see this, that view from her. She was looking at me and said, whatever you do, whatever you say, I will not change anything in my life. So I thought, that's the phrase I want to have. Because I thought she's not ready to change something, and then you can't do anything. So with that in mind, are there certain issues that maybe you would not see kids for that perhaps the parents would call about? Or something maybe not necessarily that you wouldn't see, but maybe you're a little cautious about at times? No. Until now, it's there's not an issue. But the only thing, what is really important, I think, that the kid or the teenager is really ready to change. Yes. Because I had that several times that the mother insisted to want to have a session and the teenager or the child didn't want to. And I think it's really, really important. What do you think about that? Yeah, I'd share. There's a filter that, and it may be me bringing sometimes some of my own stuff into the process. Though I'm a little cautious at times if they're calling for a kid, and we're talking below 14 years old, and it's for weight loss. And okay, why? Which the reason is, well, there's a funny answer to it. I will follow up with a question. And classically, either they respond positively or they hang up on me based on this follow-up question. Because my follow-up is, well,
how's your health?
Yeah.
Because it's where if it's a family dynamic and everyone's overweight, I'd rather start from the top down. I'd rather start with the parents first. Because at the younger ages, yes, at 13, he can buy food at school and he can get it from friends. Yet at the same time, I've just typically found a better result to start with the family dynamic first and then bring the others in.
Actually, I never had kids with weight loss, never.
Yeah.
Until now. Mostly fear or anything like that, school problems, mobbing, this kind of stuff, but never weight loss. So it's really interesting to hear.
Well, I think we have the statistics. My country is fatter than yours, so there you are.
That's true.
We shouldn't be bragging. But it's where, I mean, look at the numbers. It's just more widespread of an issue.
I know.
No, but it's where, again, if it's something that, if parent has the issue as well as the kid, it's how most of the kids who I'd end up seeing, very often they're the children of the adult clients that I've now already worked with. What's the youngest that you typically work with?
Oh, the youngest, 6-7 years old, most like that. And mostly I'm working, because I'm working also with sleep talk, I'm working with the whole family, because I think it's really important. I don't see only the kid, because the kid, mostly it's only the symptom of the whole family thing. So I just see the whole family as a, how do you call it in English? Like a whole family tree.
Right.
And everything hangs together with one another. So sometimes I have the whole family. I'm working with the whole family, father, mother, sister, brothers. So I have that very often.
Yeah. There's a story I've shared, I think, here before, which was that mother called up for the daughter, and daughter was a bit of a picky eater, that she would only eat certain things. And it was the daughter herself who actually wanted to change that. And it's this whole fun experience that by the time we were done, mom saw what we did with daughter, and mom's going, hey, could you do the reverse for me? I think I like too many things and I need to lose weight and I'd like to get a little bit more picky. And then from there, brother, then from there, the dad. And again, it's that dynamic that it's that interesting side of things that, again, that as we're working with that family shift, suddenly the entire unit at home is going better. That's
what I experienced too. When you're working sometimes just with one person from a family, the whole family is changing. That's what I saw also.
Yeah.
What is your experience in that? I don't know why, but it's just awesome.
Right. And again, it's where, I mean, my favorite way of describing it, it's kind of a funny term, is what I'd call residual change, where there's like this domino effect where now that I've done this, I mean, the focus of how I'd even work with a client for something like stopping smoking is more so focused on the idea that as we minimize the smoking habit, the whole process is less about the behavior they're stopping and more about, of course, what they're able to do now as a result of making this change.
Exactly.
So rather than shining that spotlight just on that one little problem they're here to change, instead it's that this is just the first step of a much bigger journey. Which, as that starts to trickle over to the family as well, as that starts to spread to the others as well, it's again building up that better dynamic.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So, what other things do you find yourself working with the most frequently?
Mostly fear. Actually, I'm working also a lot with adults, like fears, like mostly these are stuff. It's like fear of heights, fear of flights, spiders, the whole thing. And then there are the other things that are more complicated. Like I'm working together with doctors, dentists. Sometimes I'm going to the hospitals or to doctors because they're afraid of anything, like giving shots, or I had once a surgery, just giving some support in the medical area.
Yeah. So then how are most people finding you? What's kind of the business structure of how people are tracking you down?
I think, first of all, it's the website. I think that's a really important thing. But also, people are talking.
Yes.
Mostly my clients come from other clients I had already that I have been working with. So they're talking and they had a good experience, or I helped them in one or two situations, and then they come back. And sometimes I have also clients, they were with me like three years ago, and they came back. On another thing in their life. That can happen also.
Yeah. So then, rewinding the story, you were the client at a young age. You then got interested in the hypnosis on your own. You connected with Omni Hypnosis. At which point in this journey did you find yourself now jumping into teaching?
That's a good question. Actually, it was always my dream. It was always my dream to, first of all, gaining confidence in hypnotherapy, to be good as a hypnotherapist. And I mean, I was so lucky. I had really good mentors, and I know that's a privilege. No, yes. Not anybody has that. So I met Sean 4 years ago in Zurich, and since then, I mean, I went to these meetups in Heidelberg. And I learned so much. I learned really so much. And at the same time, I began to work in Wiel in the Hypnosis Center. And I think it was all together. And then I had really the wish to because I'm so passionate, I'm so excited about hypnosis and hypnotherapy. I thought, well, I just want to give further what I received. That was actually the motivation and the thing I had on my mind.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
And then I was searching, and then one time I was talking to Cheryl Elman, and she had something on her website like train the trainers, and we were talking about. I said, I'm not a teacher yet. I am not an instructor. I don't have a school. Is there anything I can do so you would accept me? And so she was invited me. She was invited me for Denmark, and I went to Denmark, and then Joan Golding was asking me to be a trainer for sleep talk, and so step by step it went further.
Yeah.
And so now I'm IACT trainer and IMDHA trainer. So that was always my dream.
Outstanding. So then how is it you spend most of your time? What's kind of the balance of what do you do most of? What do you see the most frequent of?
You mean in hypnotherapy or private?
In either.
It's not easy to have a balance between the private life and the hypnotherapy. I'm so excited and passionate. Most of the time, I think I spend with my family.
Yes.
With my kids and my husband, and in our garden with our chickens and with a cat. And I just love that. And going out to nature and jogging and swimming and the whole thing. That's my private life. And I just try to keep it up, although it's not easy.
Yeah, well, it's that balance that, my personal journey on that side of things was the discovery as I had kids a few years ago. The phrase is that there's no such thing as finding the time, there's only making the time. So it's that ability to get laser specific and go, okay, this is the time I'm going to work. This is the time I'm going to see people. And there's not much of a variation outside of that. That it really became setting those specific boundaries, setting those specific barriers of this is the time that I do this is the time I do that. And not really breaking away from that. So it came down to, these are the specific hours for clients. And
it's not easy.
Right.
For me, it's not easy. I'm still learning to set borders, to say, hey, that's the family time and that's working time.
Yeah. Well, I think it's always this process that's in motion. It's this process that we're always still figuring it out. It's how this is a week that I'm about to head out of town for a couple of weeks. And it became the mechanism of realizing, oh, wait, I need to figure out how to run everything even while I'm away. And as much as I do everything automated and, focused the way that I do it, it became, oh, this needs to be changed. But it's that mindset that, again, we don't yet know. There's a class that I just wrapped up teaching yesterday. And it got to a fun place because every time a student asked a question, on the last day, the questions were all, well, could you do it this way? And every single time the answer was, yes, of course you could. Just test it, see how it works. They're from the new student perspective, they're wanting this answer of, no, it doesn't work that way. Yet every time it's well, yes, that would work too. That would work too. I'm looking at,
it's individual. I think it's always different, and every person is different, and everybody has to find their own way, I think.
Absolutely.
What do you think about?
I think it's that mindset that as the trainer, as the instructor, I've really come down to the phrasing that it's not my responsibility to teach the students how to be an exact clone and do it the way that I do it.
No,
it's instead my responsibility at times to give them the insane level of detail and thinking and experience that I've put into all of this, so that they can make those choices, they can make those judgments for themselves, rather than, no, you have to do it this way.
No, and actually they have to develop their own ways and their own thing. I think it's important.
Yeah. Well, it's that phrase of finding their own voice, finding their own style. Yeah, I mean, there's a moment years ago where I'm on an airplane with somebody and he's asking for a referral for a hypnotist in a certain area, and I was able to give him like 5 or 6 names. And he's asking, which one's the best? And my answer was, well, I think they're all really good. Call them all. Find the one that you think you're the best fit for and work with that one. Rather than, it's again, this mindset of, I'm sure we'd be of a similar mindset here, that you have a lot of the same lineage. And we were chatting before we jumped into the recording here around, we all know the same people, so we need to chat. But this experience, though, that there's none of these absolutes that would often be presented. The same way that you said, I don't always do regression. It's where it's the right technique at the right time, but then sometimes there's other mechanisms to use. Although on that note, a question that's been popping up frequently here, in the made-up scenario that would never possibly exist, because you're now on a deserted island and you have a client in front of you and you're only allowed to use one technique. If we had to remove all of your hypnotic techniques and told you only could use one, what would be that? What would be that go-to strategy for you?
Which strategy? That's
the question. Which one? If we said you only could use one hypnotic technique.
That's an interesting question. I would. It sounds crazy. I would change sleep talk a little bit and use it for adults. Yeah.
How so?
It sounds crazy, I know.
No, I love it.
Just from the things I know, because the basics of sleep talk is the basics what every human being needs.
And for those that aren't, Joan has actually been on this program, but for those that haven't listened to that or aren't familiar, give us just an overview of the sleep talk process.
The sleep talk process, it's actually, how can you explain that? It's you give to a child the basics. You give the unconditional love. You give everything what a child or a person is needing at the really the bottom line of life. That's the goal, and that's the thing. And if you think about, every human being needs to be loved unconditionally. And that's the solution for many, 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 many things, actually. I work a lot with that in hypnotherapy. And if you have that, many, many problems they just disappear, I think.
Well, in many ways, it's
Would
about...
you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. It's a process in which the basic core of it is that you're training the parents how to really deliver hypnotic suggestion as it is to the child. Yet at its core, again, it's about changing that inner dialogue. And it's where so much of the work, as much as... the anecdote to this is that Kevin Cole and I are doing a workshop at HypnoThoughts this year, which was, I forget the title exactly, but the theme is Do Less Hypnosis. How to get the change conversationally. That here are moments where you're hearing the dialogue someone is bringing into the process, and they're sitting there going, every time this happens, I'm terrified. I never can do this. And they're hypnotizing themselves into the corner of, I can't create this change. And as soon as you get that language in motion, it's not the only thing to do, but it's such a massive component. That's actually when I'm working with kids, back to that conversation, the parents will often ask me, what can we do to help them out? And my advice, I say it with a smile on my face, and they get that I'm joking, which is well, maybe for now, why don't you stay out because you might have caused this. But I say it in my style, and they know that I'm not saying it in a mean way, but I'm still saying it, and they're getting the intention. Although I tell them, for now, what I'd really recommend is if you talk to them about the issue that is coming in, put it in the past tense, put it as a thing that was before, as opposed to, hey, are you still afraid of this? Hey, are you still a picky eater? Instead getting them to that more positive thing where that thing is now in their past.
Exactly.
So that tends to be my strategy on that. But again, where it's the equivalent of the one who, a client comes to me to quit smoking, and they'll occasionally ask, should I book a 6-month follow-up? And as much as I'm known as the business guy in hypnosis, I'm the one looking at them and going, why? You've stopped smoking. I'm going to run out of stuff to say to you unless there's something else you want to work on. You've done this. Congrats. Keep it up. So I love the aspect, though, and this is that benefit of the ongoing training where you're taking components, because you also do Simpson protocol, right?
Yeah, but not much.
Yeah.
Not much.
And I'd be of the same way, but I bet there's things from Inez that you've pulled out of that have worked their way into other things that you do too. Would you say there's components of that Simpson protocol training that you might not be doing the entire process, yet you're using different, let's call it, ingredients of it? You're using the individual
sometimes, but not very much.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
not very much. Sometimes I use some components of Inez, sometimes with kids, sometimes with adults, but not very much. Sometimes I use parts therapy, sometimes, different techniques, NLP, just everything what I've been taught.
Right. Well, again, it goes back to that moment in the class recently where they're asking, well, could you do this? And the answer is, of course you could. Test it, see how it goes. So go ahead.
I think you have always to be very flexible. Just had today, I had a session and I had really, really to be flexible because there was no way to do it in the ordinary style because my client was totally different approach. So I had just to be flexible and come from another side. And I experienced that many times that sometimes you cannot do it the way you usually do it. You have just to change or use some other techniques, other components of what you learned.
Yeah, absolutely. So then is there something sort of on the horizon for you, some project, or really what's in the works for you at this point? What are you excited about right now in hypnosis?
Building up my own school.
Yes.
I'm really working hard on that to get the translation because I have to translate everything, and that's somehow exciting, but it's a lot of work.
Right.
And to translate that and to build up my own school, that's my goal at the moment. Yeah.
Outstanding. And this is a year that you're speaking at several conventions too, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Tell us about some of those presentations you've got coming up.
Okay, from HT Alive in Las Vegas, I will teach probably about the golden sleep talk process.
Yes.
And you know that. And at the IMDHA conference, I will teach some important points for some keys hypnotherapy I found out, like self-hypnosis, how you do that, why it is important, why it is important for the client to do that by themselves, and what are the keys in that whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. And where can people find you online? Which I'll give everyone the quick tip before you mention the website. If you are a user of the Google Chrome browser, it will automatically translate into your local language. So I'll give everybody that.
That's fine.
Yeah. As I did that, it's like, oh, I'm looking at your website. Oh, wait, I need to translate this. So in Google Chrome, which is free, where can people find you online?
The best it will be, I think, just search on Nicole Wackernagel Hypnosis. I think that would be the best.
Outstanding. Because
I have in a short time I have several websites, several web pages, And I think instead of mentioning them all, just look me up on a website like Nicole Wackernagel and Hypnosis, and you will find me, because there's only me, I think, with that name.
Jason Linett here once again, and as always, thank you so much for interacting with this program, and I direct you over to check out hypnoticworkers.com. I told the story of the recent hypnosis training course where the students were playing the game of, well, what about this? Well, could you use that technique? Well, what about this method? And I'm really of the opinion that all this stuff works. You just have to use it. Though very often for the student of hypnosis, whether we are brand new to this, whether we're even the seasoned professional, the challenge sometimes is, how do you put it all together? And that's what Hypnotic Workers helps you to solve the problem of. One of the cool features inside of Hypnotic Workers is not only are there dozens of inductions and change strategies, but we actually spend some in-depth time inside of that digital training product where you actually see the workshopping of how do you customize and work in a client-centered format to help your clients produce change. In addition to that, there are real client sessions that have been captured and are shared inside of that Hypnotic Workers library. Join today for as little as $47 to get the learn at your own pace style of hypnosis training. Check that out over at hypnoticworkers.com.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast at WorkSmartHypnosis.com.
Hey, it's Jason Linett here, and I want you to be the first to know as we put up and share new videos and new hypnosis resources in the future. So do this right now. Click the button on this page that says subscribe, and you will be the first to find out as we upload new videos. See you soon.